leave-in, curl cream, mousse, gel, hairspray, oil. Do you need all of these to have a really great curly hair day? I'm going to be answering that question for you in today's video. If you're new here, my name is Michelle. I'm a licensed hairstylist with over 20 years of experience, and on this channel I use those 20 years of experience to help you have healthy, happy hair. So as I said, I'm going to be helping you to determine exactly what products you need for your hair and what products you don't necessarily need. I'm also going to be going through each and every product type to let you know how it works and how to use it, and give my recommendations as to who I think these products would be best for. Let's get started with the first product that you absolutely need, and that is going to be a shampoo. And make sure to get one that suits the needs of your scalp. Healthy hair starts with a healthy scalp, so make sure you're getting one that is going to get all of the buildup off of your scalp. If you have an oilier scalp like I do, you're gonna want a shampoo that's a little bit more on the cleansing side. If you have a drier scalp, you may not want one that's very cleansing. However, you still wanna get one that does cleanse both your scalp and your hair to get everything off of it so that you can start your wash day with a clean slate. And speaking of a clean slate, the next product that is a need is a clarifying or chelating shampoo. Now, of the two, I personally recommend a chelating shampoo because not only does it remove product buildup just like a clarifying shampoo does, a chelating shampoo can remove things like minerals that are found in your water. So if you live someplace that has hard water or a high mineral content, it can remove those from your hair. If you live in an urban area, it can help remove air pollution from your hair. And I'm of the opinion that the more you can get off of your hair all in one go with one product, the better it is. The next product on the need list is a good conditioner, one that works really well for your hair type, not your curl type, your hair type. So whether or not your hair is fine or coarse, mine happens to be coarse, that's going to play a huge part in what type of conditioner you use. If you have fine hair that is overall pretty healthy, gets over conditioned very easily, and gets weighed down very easily, you're not going to want one that's really, really heavy and emollient and very moisturizing. You're going to want to go with something that's a little bit more lightweight. And now if you're somebody who has hair that's really dry, you're going to want something really, really moisturizing. If you have hair that's been damaged, you're definitely going to want something that's moisturizing, emollient, and probably has a good amount of protein in it as well. The main purpose of a conditioner is to add some slip to your hair, add a little bit of shine, and to make your hair softer and more manageable, but also the pH of conditioners is such that it helps to smooth down your cuticles. When you're shampooing your hair, they may get ruffled up a little bit, and the conditioner will help bring those back down. So while I consider a conditioner to be an absolute must, you don't necessarily need a rinse out conditioner if you're somebody whose hair is very healthy, very soft, very slippery, very easily weighed down, very prone to getting over conditioned, and is very, very fine. You might want to instead use a leave-in conditioner and either leave it in or you can rinse it back out depending on how heavy your leave-in conditioner is. Speaking of leave-in conditioners, that is next on my list of products that you need. For most people, not everybody is going to need a leave-in conditioner, and for some of you, it might be just a little bit too much. And the people I am talking about are those of you that I previously mentioned that have very fine, easily weighed down hair that's overall pretty healthy and is just very prone to buildup, to being over conditioned, and it just doesn't take much to weigh your hair down. You might not need a leave-in conditioner. It just might be a little too much for you. However, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try any of them, because you might find one of any number of spray leave-in conditioners to maybe work well on your hair. These tend to be a lot lighter weight. Of course, it depends on the formulation of the leave-in conditioner, but most of the time the spray leave-in conditioners do tend to be on the lighter side. And in the case of this one right here, it does have a pretty high protein content, which tends to work really well on the aforementioned fine, easily weighed down hair. Now, the purpose of a leave-in conditioner is to kind of prep and prime your hair before you put on all of the rest of your products, kind of like a primer is for putting makeup on. And one of the things that a leave-in conditioner can do is even out the porosity in your hair. That's right, I said even out the porosity. Every single one of you, unless your hair is only this long, you all have multiple porosities. You don't have just the one porosity. You're not going to find your one porosity with a cup test because, first of all, that doesn't work anyway because of the surface tension of the water, but because your hair is going to have multiple porosities. You're going to have lower porosity up here at your roots, and you're going to have higher porosity at the ends. The reason being is because your ends have been exposed to a lot more than your roots because this is all new growth. These ends have been hanging around for years. They've been exposed to whatever is in the elements in the climate that you live in. Your hair has been washed and dried multiple times. Every time that your hair gets wet, the strand swells, the cuticles kind of lift a little bit, and then as it shrinks, the cuticles kind of go down. But after so many times of doing that, sometimes those cuticles just stay a little bit open and frayed, or they chip off. So that is what increases the porosity of your ends versus your roots. Also, if you have done anything to your hair that increases the porosity, like doing a lot of heat styling without a heat protectant, or if you have colored your hair, especially if you have lightened your hair, because that is going to be more damaging to your hair than putting a demi-permanent color on your hair, which doesn't lift your natural hair color, it just deposits, so it's less damaging. And if you have bleached your hair, then everywhere that bleach has touched is a higher porosity, and something like a leave-in conditioner can help equalize the porosity in your hair. Maybe not make it entirely equal, but it will equalize it to a certain extent because the hair that's higher porosity is going to soak up more of the leave-in conditioner than the hair that is lower porosity. And now, if you find that you are somebody who has fine, easily weighed down hair, but you have ends that are on the drier side that really need a little extra help, then just use a leave-in conditioner on your ends. And now I've been showing you some spray leave-in conditioners, but these come in all different varieties. You can have sprays like this, which tend to be on the more watery side. You notice that's just mostly a mist. Or this spray tends to be a bit more creamy. You get kind of like a milky, creamy consistency out of it. Or you can have leave-ins that have more of a lotiony feel or are a cream. I don't have any of those because those are not the ones that I typically use in my hair. My hair is overall pretty healthy. I really don't need a whole lot for a leave-in. So I tend to prefer leave-ins that are sprays, are a little bit lighter weight, and I also try to get leave-in conditioners that have heat protectant or UV protectant or both. This Evolve one and this Keratin detangling spray both have UV protectant and heat protectant in them. So that is one of the reasons why I really like using them, because then I can have all of those things in one product. And for those of you who absolutely can't do a leave-in conditioner because it just will weigh your hair down too much, I do highly recommend, if you use heat, to get a heat protectant, and if you are out in the sun a lot, to get a separate UV protectant. Now we've reached the end of my need list, and you'll notice I did not include hair masks or deep conditioners in my need list. And that's because not everybody needs a deep conditioner. And I know this goes counter to what's out there in the curly world or curly social media, curly community. It's recommended deep conditioner once a week. That works great for some people. The people who need it, people with drier hair or people with damaged hair, they are the ones that tend to need the extra moisture that hair masks and deep conditioners can provide. However, just because it's a hair mask and it does provide the extra moisture doesn't mean that it's not also adding protein. There are ones like this one here from Keratin that has collagen in it and some other protein, so it's a great mix of both. So you can find masks and deep conditioners that can suit your hair's particular needs. However, like I said, not everybody needs this, and most people certainly do not need to use a mask or a deep conditioner every single week. If you have a very healthy hair, and especially if it's very easily weighed down, this might be something you just don't ever need at all. Or you might just want to use it occasionally on a as needed basis. If you happen to notice your hair is a little bit dry, maybe you went traveling somewhere, the water was different, your hair got a little bit drier, maybe you heat styled your hair, you straightened it for a day or whatever, you're noticing it's a little bit on the drier side, you can certainly use one of these. But for the most part, most people do not need to use a deep conditioner or hair mask every single week on their hair. This is going to be very, very individual, and like I said, it's highly dependent on the condition of your hair. Something you might have noticed as we've been going along here, my foundation of my preferred shampoo with my preferred conditioner, and then also my preferred leave-in conditioners, they're not from the same brand. You do not need to use all your products from the same brand. Yes, brands will tell you that to get best results, you need to use all of their products together. And while that might be true for some people, that's not necessarily true for everybody. I like to mix and match quite a bit because I just find I actually get much better results by mixing and matching than using everything from the same brand. So why do brands tell you to use everything together for best results? Well, because they mostly want your money. They want more of your money instead of you spending your money on products from other brands. That's pretty much the reason why. And while there are some products I like to use together from the same brand, for example, Bounce Curl, the Clump and Define Cream, along with the Light Cream Gel, I love the two of these together. However, I have used them separately, and I will use this cream with various other gels and other products. And as you can see, it's actually one of my favorites, so it's pretty low. The other thing you might have noticed with those shampoos and conditioners is they are not necessarily made or marketed for curly hair. You do not have to buy only curly or wavy hair products just because your hair is curly or wavy. The ingredients that are used in those products and other products are pretty much the same. Ingredients that are good for hair are just good for hair across the board. It's really down to formulation. So curly hair products tend to be formulated with more moisturizing and emollient ingredients, which is great because a lot of people with curly hair have drier hair. However, not everyone with curly or wavy hair does have drier hair. Also, those same products that are labeled for curly hair would work really great on straight hair that has been damaged because of all of the nice moisturizing emollient ingredients that are in those products. They will work really well for the damaged hair. So it's largely down to marketing. There is some formulation kind of based off of the premise that curly hair is drier for the most part, but not everybody's hair is. So it's just a matter of finding the products that work well for your hair type. So first and foremost, whether or not your hair is fine or coarse or somewhere in between. If your hair is finer, it's really not going to like the more heavier emollient ingredients because it's going to weigh it down. And then it also depends on your hair's condition. So whether or not your hair is on the healthier side or if it's drier or damaged. If it's drier or damaged and fine, you can probably use some more emollient type products. However, if your hair is healthy and fine, you're gonna find that those are probably gonna weigh your hair down a lot. So if you've been struggling with curly hair products, weighing your hair down, making your hair seem kind of limp, lifeless, loses its curl really fast, and just kind of seems fuzzy and blown out, it might be because they're just way too conditioning for your hair type, and you might have to switch to something that isn't made for curly hair that will work better for your hair. Moving on to curl creams. I mentioned this one before and showed it to you, and curl creams can be anywhere from thick and creamy like this to a bit more lotiony like this one right here, which is the Living Proof Curl Definer, one of my favorites. And you can see it has a more lotiony type texture, and it can be any consistency in between. There are a ton of curl creams out there in a wide variety of formulations that can suit almost every hair type out there. But what does a curl cream do? Primarily, a curl cream helps to clump and define your hair, but it can also help with frizz control. Now, most curl creams don't have much hold, or they have no hold at all. So all of that definition that you're putting into your hair when you're styling it, so my preferred way of styling my hair is I brush style my hair, but you could also rake and shake or just use your fingers and rake it through, however it is that you style your hair to get that definition. A curl cream will help create that. However, if there's no hold, it won't stay that way. So it might not survive the drying process, or once it is dry, it might look great for a little bit. And then as you're going about your life and moving your hair around, it might just lose all of its definition and start to frizz up because of the lack of hold. That being said, there are some curl creams that do have some really good hold, and I have two of them right here. One is the Evolve Total Control. This actually isn't a curl cream, it's a styling cream, so it's not even marketed for curly hair, but I find that it works really great for brush styling my hair. It gives me great definition, and it also has some really good hold. This one is the Verb Curl Cream, which also has great hold. It even forms a little bit of a cast, nothing too crazy, something that can easily be scrunched out. So there are curl creams that have some hold. However, if you're somebody who needs or wants a lot of hold, these curl creams with hold still might not have enough hold for you. However, if you're somebody who likes softer hold, you don't want to cast, you're not looking for longevity, then something like this could be a good option for you. Or if you're somebody who has really short hair, just using a curl cream might work really well for you. You could go for one that has a little bit more hold so you can get some hold out of it. Or if you're not too concerned about hold and you just really want soft, touchable hair, then a curl cream might work really well for, again, like I said, with short hair, really short hair. Short hair does not get subjected to the same amount of movement as longer hair does. So all of this movement with it moving around, that can cause frizz and cause your hair to lose its definition. But if that's not something you're worried about because you're a little bit more low maintenance, or maybe it's summer and you just want to throw something in your hair to give your hair a little bit of moisture, a little bit of definition, but you're not really too concerned about how long it's all going to last, or for men, especially if you just want something pretty easy to just kind of throw in really quickly and get nice, soft, touchable hair without kind of having a really hard gel look or looking like you tried too hard or did too much to your hair, a curl cream is a great option for that. Now, given all of the great things that a curl cream can do for you, why is it that I don't consider it to be a need? Well, that's because some of these things you can get from other products. There are a lot of people who have great luck with defining their hair with foams or mousses or even gels, so you don't necessarily need a cream to do all of that for you. Also, creams can tend to be a little bit more moisturizing and emollient and can be a little heavy for those of you who struggle with hair that gets very easily weighed down. So this isn't a need for absolutely everybody. A curl cream is really great for all those people that I mentioned with short hair, people who just want to throw something in really quick and easy, aren't worried about lots of hold or longevity. And it's really great to be a first layer under a hold product for those of you who like the results that you get from a curl cream, or those of you who have drier or more damaged hair and you need a little bit extra moisture that a curl cream can provide. Let's talk about some hold products. So when it comes to hold, we have a lot of options. There are foams, there are mousses, and these two are similar, but not the same. So mousses tend to be a bit denser, and a lot of times these tend to have more hold, and some can even create a cast. It really depends on the mousse. And now these foams tend to be a little bit waterier, a little bit more airy, and I'll kind of show you that's what this foam looks like, and you emulsify it and it just kind of turns into nothing. Some might turn into a little bit of a cream, and I'll go ahead for comparison and just show you a little bit of the mousse. I'm gonna have really sticky hands. So when you put the mousse in there, you can see it actually grows and it's a little bit denser and doesn't kind of emulsify as quickly. These I tend not to emulsify. However, the foams I do tend to emulsify just because of how I use each one of the products. And now because foams tend to have a little less hold than mousses, I do tend to use these a little bit differently, and I think these work really great for when you're styling your hair. So for me, brush styling, I do like to brush style with foams, but I don't like to brush style with mousses. These I like to scrunch in at the very end, or actually I glaze over and then scrunch in. I will sometimes do that with these foams as well, but I tend to do that more with the mousses because of the higher hold and because of the less spreadability of this versus this type of foam, and because these tend to have a little bit more slip, which works great for brush styling versus mousses. Now, there are exceptions to every rule as per usual, because this particular foam right here, which is the InnerSense I Create Definition, it's their new foam. This one has great hold and creates a cast. So this one goes against everything that I said about foams in general. This is not one that I would brush style with. I have tried it, I don't really like it with it, but I do really like the hold that I get from this product. Another thing that I find with these types of foams is that I tend to get a little bit more shine with these than I do with the mousses. That isn't to say that I get dull hair with the mousse, because there are some mousses that do add some shine. I just find that I get a lot more shine with these. And like I said, they're really great for brush styling and defining and clumping the hair because of the moisture content, because they have some hold, so they really help the hair kind of stick together and clump together. And a lot of times they have some really good slip. So that is the way that I like to use these. But again, I can also use these at the very end, the same way that I would use a more dense mousse. And for reference, this is the Surface Curls Firm Styling Mousse. And this other one that I've been waving around is the Trelux Soothe and Restore. But when it comes to like a scale of hold from the least amount of hold to the most amount of hold, I would say that even the firmest hold mousses don't have as much hold as firm hold gels. And those don't have as much hold as a hairspray. So if you're looking for a softer hold, then this might be for you. Also because of the lightweight nature of foams and mousses, if you prefer volume over lots of definition and longevity, then a foam or a mousse might also be for you. Or if you're somebody like me and you really like to layer a whole bunch of products on your hair, then you might like to combine a foam or a mousse with a gel and a hairspray. Yes, I put all that on my hair. In fact, I have all of that on my hair now. I have leave-in conditioner, I have a curl cream, I have a gel, I have a mousse, and I have a salt spray and a hairspray. And my hair is very soft, doesn't feel weighed down. It's nice and bouncy. It has some decent volume. It's got some nice shine. It doesn't feel producty. I like to layer a lot of products, but that's because that's what I find works best for my hair, because each one of these products does something different, and that's why I like to use each one of them. Now, if you struggle to layer your products, or you're not sure what to layer or where to even start, I do have a playlist called Shop My Stash Curly Combos, where I do videos where I pick my products on camera. I explain the reasons why I'm picking those products and putting those products together. And then that way you can take that knowledge and information and apply it to your hair and the products that you have or might be thinking of purchasing. So if you're struggling and not sure where to start, I'll go ahead and put that playlist right up here so you can check that out. Next up, we have gels. Gels can have a consistency anywhere from really liquidy, like this one, which is the AG Liquid Effects, to something really thick and in a tub, or really creamy like the Bounce Curl or the Evolve Dream Gel. And I'll just show you this one really quick and you can see what I'm talking about. It kind of has a liquidy but also kind of creamy, serum-y type texture. And the Dream Gel is definitely more of a cream. Also the Rizzo's Curls Gel is more of a cream. And the Dream Gel looks like this. So again, kind of a creamy, runny consistency, kind of milky almost, milky creamy, I don't know, something like that. You can have gels that are in consistency somewhere between really watery and really thick. And then also gels can be anywhere from a really light hold to a really firm hold. And the consistency of a gel has absolutely nothing to do with the amount of hold that it has. For example, we have the AG Liquid Effects, which is a very liquidy gel. We have the Shape Up Aqua Gel, which is also very liquidy. And I'll show you this one here really quick, just so you can see how liquidy this one is. You already saw the other one, so it is a very liquidy gel. Now, this one is a very light hold gel, and this one is a firm hold gel. And this one even says, because Curlsmith does their hold factor down here on the bottom, it even says it's a light hold, and I definitely agree with their classification. This one doesn't have much hold for me at all. I tend to not use this one by itself. What I actually like using this one for is to mix together in the palm of my hand a little bit of this In Shower Style Fixer, which is a very thick gel with a lot of hold. It is their most hold, or their, what is it? Their extreme hold is what they call it. And it definitely has extreme hold. I do find this is just a little bit much for me. And I'm not a fan of the super thick formula. You do have to put this on soaking wet hair, but I still find it's really hard to distribute. So I like to mix the two of these together in the palm of my hand, and then I can create my own hold level that way. And I can also make this a little bit easier to distribute through my hair by mixing it with something that's a little bit more watery. And if you haven't figured it out by now, my favorite consistency for gel is a more watery gel. I just find that they distribute through the hair much easier than a thicker gel. That isn't to say that I don't like thicker gels, because I do really like some thick gels. So like this one, you can tell that I really like it because there's a lot that's gone. I've used a lot of this. It's a great gel. A lot of times what I do with the thicker gels to make them easier to distribute through my hair is to spray a little water on my hands, get the gel, and then emulsify the two together, and that can help to distribute it. I also make sure my hair is very wet so it distributes very easily. You just kind of need to be careful when you do that, because it does tend to dilute it, so you're not going to get as strong of a hold or as much of the hold as it's going to give you, because this one actually isn't a super strong hold. I would say this one's more of a medium hold, but if you put too much water with it, it's going to be less than that. Which brings me to another point, that you can lessen the amount of hold that your gel has by diluting it with water. However, putting more of a light hold gel in your hair isn't going to make it a strong hold gel. It's just going to be more gel in your hair, and eventually it's just going to get to the point where your hair feels really producty, could weigh it down. It's just going to be really sticky and kind of gross, but it isn't going to give you more hold. If you need more hold, you need to get a gel that has more hold, or you need to mix your lighter hold with something that does have more hold. But adding more of any of these products to amplify their effects isn't going to amplify their effects. It's just going to be more product. And again, this is why I tend to layer a bunch of products, because not one single product can do everything that I want it to do. And I just find that I do get much better, more consistent results from the layering of products. Again, you don't need to do that. You can certainly pick and choose which type of product that you want to have. For the hold products, if you're not a fan of gels that give a cast, or you don't really need a lot of hold and you much prefer a softer, more voluminous look, then a mousse or a foam is probably going to be better for you. But if you're somebody who does like to see more longevity and a little bit more hold, and you maybe want a cast, then you might want to go for a gel that does create a cast that is firmer hold. But not all gels give a cast. This one definitely doesn't give a cast. This one sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. And the Dream Gel doesn't give a cast. And there's a whole bunch of other gels that don't give a cast, and there are some that do. Also, layering a gel over a curl cream can sometimes soften that cast. So if you have a gel that has great hold that you absolutely love, but it gives you a really strong cast that you're not a fan of, if you use it with a curl cream, especially one that's more moisturizing and emollient, that might help to soften it. However, again, if your hair is easily weighed down, doing that might not be the best bet for you. You may want to find a different kind of gel if you aren't a fan of the crunch or the crispy look that it gives you. However, most of those gels, if you just scrunch out your hair, the cast goes away and you're left with nice soft curls. So a lot of times that's not necessarily a problem, but it's also very much personal preference, and you can pick whatever works best for you. The hold level, whether or not it has a cast, there are so many different options out there, and you can also mix things together to get exactly what works best for your hair. And I haven't even come to the other consistency of gel, which is a spray gel. And again, spray gels can come in very firm hold, like ironclad cast is what we're talking about with this one. This is the AG Care spray gel, or something that is a little bit of a lighter hold in the Surface Curls Frizz-Free Shine Gel. Something like this I would recommend for people who have not just fine hair, but also low density hair, especially if you put leave-in conditioner when you're in the shower and your hair is really wet and you like the clumps and the definition that you get, like literally just as you're in the shower, you haven't touched your hair, and at the most you maybe ran your fingers through it to rake through the leave-in conditioner and you like what you see there, I would say go ahead and spray something like this, or even this, depending on how much hold that you want out of it. But this one, like I said, it's ironclad, it's got a crunch. So if you're looking for something softer, maybe a little less firm hold spray gel, but then you can spray it all the way on that and you don't have to disturb anything. Because those of you who have fine, low density hair that dries really super fast, You don't want to manipulate your hair any more than you have to because it could drag your curls out and create frizz. So a spray gel can be really beneficial for those of you who just really like the way that your hair looks when it's completely soaking wet, it's in the shower, you haven't touched it, you haven't styled it, and you just spray this on and then just let it dry or diffuse it dry, and then you can kind of scrunch it up and fluff it up afterwards, and you're gonna get a lot more definition and less frizz by going that route than trying to brush style or doing any of the other things, which may, like I said, drag your hair out, stretch out your curls, and create frizz. So this is a great option for that, but it doesn't have to be just for people who have fine low density hair. This also could be a great option for people with really short hair. You can put in some curl cream to get some of the definition going, to get some softness, and then spray on some spray gel to add just a little bit more hold to help hold it in place without, especially with something like this, without it getting that really hard, slicked, gelled up look. So spraying one of these two on there can be really great, again, for short hair. But it's also not just limited to those people, because this is something that can also work really well on longer hair, on coarse hair like what I have. For some of these spray gels, you do need to be a little bit careful because I do find that the casts that they create and the hold that they have when they're firm hold and create a cast can be bulletproof. Okay, maybe not quite bulletproof, but you get what I'm saying. They're pretty crazy. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that these can be pretty universal along with a lot of the other gels. Again, it's all down to personal preference, which hold you want, what kind of look you're going for, if you want something more defined, if you don't mind having a cast because you find that it gives you less frizz, which incidentally, a lot of people who live in humid climates will get a gel that leaves a cast and not necessarily scrunch it all the way out, because that cast will help do exactly what a cast does on your arm or a broken leg or whatever. It holds it in place so the humidity can't get at it and cause it to frizz out all over the place. So that can be another option. So gel is not a need. However, if you want a lot of hold, a lot of longevity, and if you're looking for something a little bit more defined, I do find that gels can hold the definition for a lot longer than foams and mousses in general, because with foams and mousses, there are some outliers, like this one right here, lots of hold, lots of definition, and creates a cast. So there are outliers, but in general, gels tend to be a firmer hold than mousses and foams. And this last hold product is a personal favorite of mine and something that I've been recommending on my channel here in several videos for probably, I don't know, maybe not since the beginning, but pretty close. I've been using hairsprays on my curly hair, on wet curly hair, just prior to diffusing, probably since cosmetology school or maybe even high school. And for reference, I graduated high school in '91. I'm old. So that's how long I've been using this, since late 80s, early 90s. I love using hairsprays as a final hold product just before I diffuse. But if you're gonna use it on wet hair, it needs to be more of a working spray, like the Aquage working spray. I have featured this in many videos. It's an absolute favorite and has been for a very long time. Or it can be a finishing spray, but one that is wetter and takes a lot longer to set and dry. And this one also does the same. It's the Rizos Curls Volumizing Spray. All of these, and even the Bounce Curl one, which I didn't grab and I don't know why, but all of these take longer to dry, take longer to set, so it works really well on wet or damp hair. You can use them in the more traditional way on dry hair at the very end. I just prefer to use them on wet hair prior to diffusing because it does help to keep the frizz creation down while I'm diffusing, so I don't have to be as careful when I'm diffusing when I put hairspray on it first, because the hairspray is going to help hold it in place and not get so frizzy while I'm diffusing. Also, I like the more flexible hold that I get from using a hairspray on wet hair versus putting it on my finished dry hair. I feel like doing so tends to give it a little bit more of a stiffness. Not as much with these wetter sprays, pump type sprays. The aerosols for sure will make it a bit stiffer, and I rarely use those on my hair. Those are for basically special occasions. For my hair, I prefer just these, But I'm not a fan of that stiffness. I want my hair to have movement. I want it to do whatever it's gonna do, but I also want it to have hold, and I also want it to feel like it doesn't have a bunch of hairspray in it. So I want it to feel like soft, healthy, bouncy hair. And that is one of the reasons why I really like these types of hairsprays in particular. Now, why choose a hairspray, and do you need it? A hairspray is lightweight but has a lot of hold. This is gonna have more hold than any of the gels that I mentioned for the most part. There might be a couple there that are pretty super hard holding. That'll give a hairspray a run for its money. And also, hairsprays don't always create crunch. I find that when you put a hairspray on your wet or damp hair, you're less likely to get a crunch from it than you will from a gel. So you can get the benefits of a great hold with the hairspray without it weighing your hair down, and for the most part, without it giving you a crunch. Now, there may be some hairsprays that do cause a crunch, and it also is gonna depend on your hair, and it's gonna depend on what you have underneath the hairspray, whether or not you're gonna get a crunch from it. But if you're a pretty low maintenance type person and you mostly just want to do a curl cream and you want something super quick and easy but a little bit of hold, a hairspray is a great option as well. Just put in your curl cream, do what you're gonna do, and then throw on the hairspray and you're good to go. Especially for really, really short hair, this is a great option. So basically, hairsprays or working sprays are pretty universal, and whether or not you need it just depends on the amount of hold that you want in your hair. And also, if the hold that you require is something that's firmer, but you don't want your hair to be weighed down, a hairspray can be a really good option for that. And it's a really great way to boost whatever hold products you have in your hair already, and just put this in as one final thing. Hairsprays can also be really great for humid climates because of the hold that it gives, but also because some of them can be or have anti-humidity ingredients in them. So you can spray them on your hair when it's wet and then diffuse. You can also stop partway through diffusing and put the hairspray on then, or you can put it on as a final product for those of you in a humid climate. And if you're using like an anti-humidity type hairspray, I would definitely recommend doing a final spritz on your dry hair before you go outside, because that's going to help provide a barrier between your hair and the humidity. And now, as far as a personal recommendation for an anti-humidity hairspray, I do live in a dry climate. I really don't have any way to test them here because I don't know when we're going to have humidity here. We do sometimes get rain. It does sometimes get a little bit humid, but the humidity levels that we see here in our drier climate do not compare to the humidity levels that people in humid climates get. So it's really hard for me to test that and be able to recommend a good one. And it has been quite a few years since I have lived in a humid climate, and there have been a number of products that have been invented between then and now. So unfortunately, I don't really have a good one for you to recommend, but I do know there are a few products out there that do have anti-humidity in them in hairsprays. Next up, we have oils and serums. And while I don't necessarily classify these as a need, I do classify them as something I highly recommend. Now, a serum or an oil can be used when your hair is dry, it's styled, it's all done, and you put some in your hand and then just run it over. It can help you to scrunch out that crunch. If you have a gel that created a cast, it'll help you scrunch out the crunch without creating more frizz. But it also helps to seal everything in your hair and provide a protective barrier between your hair and the environment. So for me, living in a dry climate, putting on a serum or an oil really helps to shield my hair against all of this dry air. And for those of you living in a humid climate, it'll help provide a barrier between your hair and all the moisture in the air. So you're less likely to get as much frizz. It'll help kind of prevent that a little bit. And these can be kind of added to your hair after your wash day. So it can be put on your hair on wash day, but it can also be added in on subsequent days as well, especially if your ends tend to get a little bit frizzy and kind of fluffed out or, you know, blown out or whatever because of either the dry air or the humidity. This can kind of help bring the hair a little bit back together, again, provide that barrier and seal everything back in. So it works really great for that. And as I'm sitting here holding this, you can kind of see the differences in consistencies between an oil and a serum. So the serum is a little bit more viscous, and this is more my preference than an oil. And again, this is all going to come down to personal preference. My daughter loves this, which is why there's so much gone. She used, that was her. She used most of it. And I'm on my, I don't know how many bottles of this I've gone through. I've gone through many of them. It's the Verb Ghost Oil. It's my absolute favorite. It's weightless and it's viscous, and I like the slip that it has so that it just glides over my hair when I'm putting it in, and it just leaves a little bit of a barrier on my hands, and so that when I'm scrunching my hair, I'm not creating frizz. It's just my preference to get the more viscous type formulation and a serum versus an oil. An oil like this can be really good for finishing off your style and creating a barrier and sealing and protecting and all of that. But a lot of people will use this as a pre-shampoo treatment as well. You can put the oil in, it can help give you some slip so that you can detangle your hair while it's dry. Your hair is actually stronger when it's dry than when it's wet. So detangling it when it's dry is a little bit better for your hair than detangling it when it's wet. And adding something like this can give you a little extra added slip so that you're not fighting the knots nearly as much or the tangles nearly as much. Your brush glides through a lot easier. Plus, a lot of people with drier hair find that oiling up their hair before washing it can also keep it from being so dry. Now, I do need to say something about that, because part of the reason why that happens is because the oil and water doesn't mix. So this provides a barrier so that the shampoo that you're putting on there is not drying out your hair. However, if it's not drying out your hair because this is putting a barrier on there, it's also not necessarily doing as good of a job cleaning everything off of your hair as it could or should. So this might not be a good thing to put in your hair every single time you shampoo, and you may need to use a clarifying shampoo more frequently or a chelating shampoo more frequently if you are somebody who likes to do a pre-poo treatment with oil. Just something to consider. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, because I know a lot of people get great benefits from doing that, but it is something to think about and be aware of, and just make sure that you're counteracting it by clarifying frequently enough to keep from getting buildup on your hair. Another thing that you can do with oils and serums is you can mix them in with your gel. This works really great in humid climates because you're adding the frizz fighting capabilities of the serums and the oils into your gel. So you would just put some of the gel in your hand, put a small amount of the serum or the oil in with it, emulsify them together, and then put them on your hair. And that is going to really up the frizz control of that gel by adding the serum in there. Or you can switch it up the other way, and you can add a tiny amount of gel to your serum for when you're scrunching out the crunch and finishing off your hairstyle, which is then gonna add a little extra hold along with the sealing and protecting that you're already doing with the serum. So again, while I do not consider these a need per se, because some people still might find these to be a little too heavy for their hair, I do have to say that I very strongly recommend having one of these in your arsenal. There's a number of different formulations, and this one is pretty weightless, so I do feel like even if you have very easily weighed down hair, that this probably is still going to work for you, but you might also have pretty decent luck with just a very small amount of oil as well. So I do strongly recommend getting an oil or serum or both and switching off. But is it a need? Not necessarily. The next category of products is going to be curl enhancers, sea salt sprays, and volume sprays. But essentially these do have some similarities, but there are some differences. And they work great for fine, easily weighed down hair. They work great for super soft, slippery hair because they add a little extra something. And the sea salt spray will kind of help mimic some of that beachy texture. So this can be a really fun one to play around with, getting that texture in there while also helping with the grit and getting rid of some of that super softness and slipperiness of your hair. And then a volumizing spray can help do exactly what it says, which is to give your hair a little bit more volume. And then you've got the curl boosting sprays. These are going to help boost your curls, like it says, perk them up a little bit, especially if they have magnesium sulfate in them, because magnesium sulfate helps to shrink the bonds in the hair temporarily. So it can really help perk up some of those curls. This can really help curls that are, again, super soft and slippery, but also curls or hair that is coarse and naturally kind of heavy and weighs itself down. It can really help boost those curls and perk them up. So basically kind of cheating gravity a little bit is what these can do for you. So each one of these are similar-ish, and they add a little bit of texture and add a little bit of volume, and they are not necessary. You do not need these unless you really want them. Unless you have really fine hair, or your hair is volume challenged, or you have super soft, slippery hair and you don't want it to be that soft and slippery, then I would definitely recommend trying one of these out. They're a lot of fun to play around with, especially the sea salt sprays, because of the extra added texture that you can get in your hair. They're just a lot of fun. Now, I do plan on making a video all about these types of sprays, the curl enhancers, the volumizers, and the sea salt sprays. I will be explaining the differences in depth. I will explain how to use them to get the most out of them, where in your routine that you should use them, plus give you some mini reviews on the ones that I have. So if that's something you're interested in, then just stay tuned for that video. Now that we've reached the end of the plethora of products that can be used for wavy curly hair, I'm gonna leave you with one final thought, and that is, everyone's hair is different. What works for one person's hair may not work that well for your hair. Also, not everybody is looking for the same end result. Some people want lots of volume and really fluffy hair, and they don't care about lots of longevity or hold, and other people want lots of definition, lots of hold, lots of longevity. It's all a personal preference, and it's entirely up to you, and those are going to be a different set of products. Also, another thing to take into consideration is how you live your life. If you're more low maintenance and you don't want a 12-step hair routine, you don't need a 12-step hair routine. You might be able to get the results that you're after with just 2 steps. But if you are somebody who really likes to play around with your hair and it's more of a hobby for you, or an obsession, pointing at me, this person right here, go ahead and do like a 12-step process on your hair. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that either. Ultimately, I really hope this video has helped you realize that you do not need all of the things. And maybe it's given you some insight into the things that you do need for your hair, your preference, your life. And if you did find this video helpful, I would greatly appreciate it if you'd hit that thumbs up button or drop a comment in the comment section. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.